We're back with another Lawyer Reacts. This time, though, different. Not landlord on tenant, tenant on tenant. And if you think landlord on tenant beefs are intriguing, tenant on tenant is a tough one. More common in a weirder gray area. This one is roommate on roommate with an alleged secret camera. So that can only lead to drama and probably an entertaining episode of People's Court. So let's get into it.
This is the plaintiff, Shauna Baptiste. She says she used to rent a room from the defendant in her apartment, and the woman secretly installed a video camera to spy on her. Her rights have been violated. The woman saw her without her clothes on. She definitely deserves a rent rebate and is suing this louse for the $7,715 she's definitely owed. This is the defendant, Cassandra Cabrera. She says the plaintiff maliciously ripped a security camera she had in a common area of the apartment down and put it in a bucket of water. The woman's a menace. She certainly doesn't owe her any money because the cops told her to install the security camera. And if anyone's owed money today, it's not the plaintiff. That's for darn sure. She's accused of being nosy. The defendant has filed a counter suit for $4,825 for past due rent and property damage.
All parties, please do it in. Be seated, come to order, please.
Now, artificial intelligence can generate ad creatives automatically. The program is called Ad Creative AI, and it helps.
Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. So, Ms. Baptiste, you were renting a room from this defendant, correct?
Yes,
And how much were you paying?
$700 a month,
All right. You moved in when?
July 8th of 2019.
Okay, now, at first things were going well, right?
Yes,
You used to babysit her children. According to you, did you get paid for babysitting or?
no, it was just like a few hours or an hour, 45 minutes, 20 minutes. She'll run out to the store,
Okay.
whatever.
All right. So, but everybody was getting along.
Yes.
What went wrong?
Basically, it was after probably the week before Thanksgiving or the week, let's say the week after. She was just coming in from work, and I was sitting at the table eating my dinner, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Shauna, please clean up the drain when you're done." So I'm just like lost, like, what are you talking about? You know, she's like, clean up the drain when you're done. That's all. So I'm just like, okay. I was like, you have kids here too, and they eat stuff, you know, and they put all types of stuff in there, you know. So I just stayed quiet. I went in my room because I felt embarrassed because she had her babysitter there.
That's it? That's what went wrong? Okay. So what ends up happening? Tell me your story. Because you're suing for pain and suffering. You're suing for every penny you ever paid in rent to be returned to you. Why?
After all of this had happened, I just stopped, you know, speaking to her. Then I get a call from the room agency stating that, oh, Cassandra doesn't need you in the room anymore.
Okay, let's talk about that a second. Who is your contract with, them or her?
It's actually no contract. Basically, they are legally a room agency. You go to them to find a room, and they find people who are renting rooms.
Right. So you guys have just a month-to-month contract, or is there a lease?
It's a month to month.
It's a month-to-month. Okay. So she notifies them rather than talking to you and says, I don't want her here anymore. And then that happens when?
That happens like the last week in November.
Is that accurate, the timing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens?
Then I just stayed.
And why didn't you just tell her it was just too strained?
She wasn't speaking to me
Okay.
at all.
Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you're talking to her and she won't answer, or what does it mean?
She would just come in with her face and, and very intimidating, go in her room. So, my mom came one day. I wasn't even caring about that. I was letting her rock, like stay there. As long as you pay rent, it's cool. We don't have to be friends, But my mom came over to watch the kids one morning, and she was like, hi, Shauna. And Shauna just kept walking. So as my mom, she's like, you can't live in a place where the person doesn't talk to you because you can't trust them and you have small children here. So she said, you should call the room agency so they can help you and tell them you don't need the room anymore so that she can move out, which was the original thing, like if you need the person out, you will call the agency and they will take them out. So I did the procedure. So then after that, let Shauna finish.
Things got hairy.
You call the room agency after the first 30 days.
You could still talk to...
Okay. So, I don't know where this is at. I don't see a lot of room agency ones, probably because in Los Angeles, the room agency is kind of not a thing because there's a lot of rent control and a lot of like tenant rights. So if there's a master tenant and there's like a sublease, that's like a whole other thing. But a room agency, I've not encountered that. I've heard of it, but it's not something that's typically done where I'm at in Los Angeles in California. But the contract, who the contract's with, is kind of important. It doesn't seem like the contract is with the roommate. The contract is with the agency. So the agency placed her, puts her in, she pays rent. I don't know who she pays rent to. I don't know if she pays rent to, I think it's Cassandra, or if she pays rent to the agency. That's what I'm not sure about. And I'm not sure what the agency's role is. Like if you don't like the roommate anymore, you move them out. Or the agency issues a notice. I guess maybe the agency evicts them. I don't know. So that's interesting, but okay. The not talking to your roommate thing, this is where it gets so dicey with roommates. It's so hard having roommates. I've seen friendships fall apart after they move in together. I've seen people have roommates and like it's so much animosity. I had to deal with one with a situation in Beverly Hills and like the police had to come. It was like a bunch of drama for no reason. Roommate drama is insane. Not talking to your roommate is not something I would be surprised by because the relationship with like a roommate to roommate is they don't feel like they're landlord tenant to each other. So there's usually like a main leaseholder and then other people that come in and maybe the main leaseholder deals with those tenants. So, but the tenant doesn't feel like the main leaseholder is the landlord or, the other tenant, the roommate. So then it just becomes this thing, look, I don't really have to listen to you. And then there's like all this drama. So here, the not talking thing, if you don't get along, yeah, you wouldn't talk. If the mom says you can't have her live there because she's not talking to you, that's like, as an adult, you got to figure that out. If your mom tells you to do something, you can take it under advisement. It doesn't necessarily mean you act on it. She calls the agency and says, I want her out. And I get it. She's uncomfortable with the woman living there. The woman's uncomfortable being called out about the drain. I guess they both have kids. I wonder how big of a place this is that she has kids living there. And I guess the two roommates have kids living together in a house. That's like probably a lot to deal with in general. But okay, not talking is weird. Not talking to your roommate or acknowledging them is just disrespectful and rude. But it's also something like if you choose to do that, you choose to do it. Let's see.
And say this isn't working out, but she feels like you're not talking to her, so she doesn't want to. So go ahead. What happens?
Basically, I didn't say anything to her for the simple fact that I felt that she owed me an apology and should have sat down and spoke to me when she made that comment when she came into the door from work. She didn't even say, hey,
I understand. Everybody thinks they're right.
Right.
And in life, because you're young. How old are you?
I'm 39.
How old are you?
32.
Okay, listen to me, because I'm a little bit older. So I've lived longer. I don't like the way you people laughed, by the way. I've lived longer. And sometimes it is less important to be right than it is to be at peace. Just remember that. It is less important to be right than it is to be at peace. This is your living situation.
Super true.
There, you're living there. It's at some point, I may feel somebody owes me an apology, but if I don't make peace, I'm not happy. So I would rather that the thing that should be rolling off your tongue all the time is let's talk. Let's see if we can. That should be rolling off your tongue with your children, with your mate, with your roommates, with your mother, with whoever it is. It should not be a big deal. There should not be a silent freeze because people communicating understand each other. And then you would have said, listen, you kind of embarrassed me because you implied that I was a pig. Oh, I didn't mean to imply you were a pig. I was just annoyed because there was rice. Whatever it is. But when people don't communicate, this is what happens. And this got really, really bad because we're now going to talk about thousands of dollars and an arrest. Okay.
This, which is ridiculous, this happens a lot in people's court. it becomes almost like a therapy session where the judge, similar to what's happening here, has to put you in place. You're an adult. You're expected to learn how to communicate. If you're embarrassed, you either deal with the thing and move on from the incident and then get over it, or you don't. But the judge is like, there's so much validity to peace over being right. Principles are really expensive. They're expensive emotionally and usually financially. And being right doesn't necessarily mean you win anything. Her not talking to the roommate, again, is like a weird thing, but now we're gonna, apparently the police were involved, so let's see what happened with the police.
Now, you talk to me. What ends up happening?
Basically, when I was staying there, I was just like 2 weeks or what have you. I wasn't speaking because I just.
Did you pay rent in November?
Yes, I did.
Did you cancel the check?
No, it wasn't a check. I sent it to her through Zelle.
Through Zelle?
Zelle, yes.
Zelle. Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you receive rent in November?
She canceled both checks since the beginning of November.
So even before. Wait, checks or Zelle?
Zelle. The
so
payment.
She can't. Do you have evidence that she canceled?
So even before the rent she paid before the argument, she canceled. So that's where we are with this lady.
Okay, so hold on and show me. She's saying you canceled the Zelle payment.
It went through. There's no way to cancel once it goes through. Once you have sufficient funds in your account.
Was, well, did you have insufficient funds?
I have sufficient funds in my account.
That's so weird. Show me your Zelle account. Was she paying the rent half and half, $350 every 2 weeks?
Yeah, she had asked me if she could pay it every 2 weeks, and I said, okay, cool. I know everybody doesn't get paid every week.
Now, you end up. Let's fast forward. According to her, you canceled November. According to you, you paid November.
Yeah.
And then what happens in December? Do you pay December?
No, because I knew she already wanted me out on December 13th after 1 a.m. Her and her boyfriend came into the room. When I was there, the door was closed, and she said, "You stupid black. Why you called the management office on me? You watch and see."
So we're skipping all kinds of stuff. What happened on December 13th?
No, actually, on December 13th, Shauna here, she called my landlord. I am a single mom with 3 small kids, okay? The reason why she's staying in my apartment is because I need to make rent to keep a roof over my kid's head, which I was struggling with. My attorney calls me that my management company's attorney told him that somebody called and said, I sublet my apartment to them.
Are you allowed to or not?
No, I did not sublet my apartment. She said I sublet my apartment.
Okay. This is getting heated. This is also something that I see quite often where people get like really vindictive. The trying to take kids away from moms thing is actually more common than you would think, and it's really petty. I've seen it happen in a landlord-tenant situation. I've seen it on roommate situations where you disagree with someone and the immediate answer is like, well, I'm going to get your kids taken away from you. Unless the kid's really genuinely being abused and there's some actual problem, to threaten or try to take someone's kids away from them to put them in the foster care system is like one of the most inhumane, screwed up things I feel like someone can do. You don't want to talk to someone, fine. You don't want to pay rent, that's already crappy on its own, whatever. You trying to take someone's kids away from them when they otherwise, there's no reason for that, is awful. Like, that's an awful thing to do to someone. Like, I guess we'll get into it, but I hope that's not the case, but I've seen people do that, where they try to take people's kids away from them. They call Child Protective Services. They have like every government agency. And for what? Like, for what? Move out. Move somewhere else. But don't ruin someone's life, and especially don't get little kids involved. They're small, they're defenseless. Don't try to throw them under the bus or ruin their lives or take them away from their mom because you're mad. That is so ridiculous.
I didn't. I lived there with my children.
Technically speaking, no, you're right. You are right legally. You can get a roommate.
I can get a roommate.
So stop a second. Now, here's my question to you. On December 31st, what occurs?
I had seen a camera on her daughter's dollhouse.
Where is the dollhouse located?
Okay, so the dollhouse is all the way at the end.
Of what?
In the hallway.
Okay.
Of the apartment. So I wait till everyone leave and I stay in my room because I don't want, I already know it's a tension between me and her. So I stay in my room and I come out after they leave. So I see a camera there and I'm like, what in the world, you know, what is this? And it's plugged in and it's on. So I thought it was just there, just to be there. So I took the camera and I'm looking at it and I unplugged it, and it was a mop bucket right next to the dollhouse in front of her room, and I just dropped it in there.
In the water?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
The reason on my defense is because
This lady says this with like the most straight face. Some of the stuff she's saying, like she just says it so matter of fact. Like I unplugged it, I looked at it, and it just tossed in in the bucket of water. You're like, what? Like and she's like so calmly. That is okay. Okay.
she's taking me to the point where I didn't want to conflict, physical conflict, because.
And how did you think that taking her camera, ripping it off the dollhouse and sticking it in water was going to...
rip it off of the dollhouse.
Taking it off the dollhouse and putting it in a bucket of water was going to create peace.
Because I was so frustrated. I already...
Yeah, that just sounds like typical one-upmanship of anger. That doesn't...
Yeah, she hasn't talked they had one incident about the drain. She's not talking to the woman. And then she's doing like small paper cut jabs at her, like taking the camera and putting it in a bucket of water. I think having the camera in the kid's dollhouse is weird though. Like just to have a camera, if it's going to be in the common areas, okay, but to like hide it in your kid's dollhouse is like kind of a weird thing to do. But also weird is just taking it off the dollhouse and throwing it in a bucket of water. Okay, all right.
Like trying to keep peace. It sounds like
you're
angry. Now, according to your complaint, you were naked when that happened?
Well, I walk around the house nude, right?
Why?
When nobody's there. When nobody's there.
Yeah,
because
no one wants that. Whether there's a camera or not a camera, no one wants that because it's a little... I don't need to go into specifics, do I?
I was walking around like from the bathroom to my room, and sometimes I'll forget my towel in my bedroom, so I'll go. But walking around the whole house, no. But it's times where I have...
Did you ever see her nude on any of that?
One time, when she had just moved in, this is...
Oh, has that camera been there since she moved in?
No, I did this after she called my landlord because I felt, now she has malicious intent.
Okay.
Because if I get evicted, what am I going to do with my 3 small
kids? I got it. So you put the camera on.
So I put the camera because I don't have locks on my doors. You can open it with a quarter.
Okay.
So my belongings are there and my children are
sleeping. Okay, so you put the camera.
I put the camera because I don't trust her.
Right.
So I put the camera. I was
Did you ever tell her, by the way, there's going to be a camera?
No, but the camera was in plain sight.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't hidden.
I know, but you probably should have, because she's renting the room, but she has access to the other places, and if you're going to have a camera there, you should probably say it. But go ahead.
I agree.
The day that she did that, I told her, when she grabbed the camera,
so do you actually have...
By the way, if she were to tell her, hey, I'm putting a camera, the tenant, the roommate would have taken the camera anyways. She would have gotten rid of the camera. There would have been no reality in which that woman would have been told, I have a camera, or I'm putting a camera, and the other roommate would have been like, yeah, that's fine. You can have a camera in your kid's dollhouse watching me walk down the hallway. Also, this guy in the back left looks super invested in this video. I don't know why, out of all pauses, this still is hilarious to me. But okay.
The video of her grabbing the camera?
The video got deleted, but I have a picture.
Hold on.
So this is it. She's wearing her pajamas. She wasn't naked.
Yep, she's got something on. This is the one, right?
The guy in the background.
And that's when the picture goes blank. And then, of course, I have to be careful because I have all my personal things.
Why did you grab it and throw it in the water bucket? Because you didn't want to be taped?
Yeah.
Then why didn't you just put a tape on it? Like a piece of masking tape?
Well,
or...
I didn't know.
You didn't know what?
You
know what you're doing when you throw it in water? If you had taken it apart and then just put it next to it, that'd be one thing. You maliciously put it in water. So what did you... By the way, did you ever see her naked on any of those tapes?
No, I didn't. However, I did walk into the apartment one day. Sometimes I stay at my mom's because she lives nearby, and if it's too late, I stay with the kids, And I guess she hadn't heard us in the apartment. I walked in, and she's like, "Oh, I'm naked." And I thought that was a little odd because not even I am naked in my own apartment.
Okay, all right, enough naked talk. So now what happens is Do you actually see that this happens when you decide, let me check up on my tape? Or
No,
how do
I
you
saw
know?
it because the camera has a motion sensor, so it had sent me a text, you know?
Okay, so it sends you a text
And
then
I see her grab it and it goes blank. So I send her a message and I'm like, there are more cameras, but there weren't any. I just wanted her to deter her from going into my personal stuff. I have my social,
So
my
you send her a
passport.
message saying there are more cameras, and she
there are
says,
more cameras, and she tells me, "Oh, I'm not worried about you. Stop bothering me. I have rights."
So you called the police.
So the next day when I came home, I walk in. It was 23 degrees outside. I have 3 kids. She left the window open. This is the second time she leaves the window open in the room.
How did you know? Because the door's open?
The first time around, the babysitter told me, the apartment's very cold. She left the window open, but I don't know how to get in the room. That was before when I could change it with the coin. But she took it upon herself to change the lock without my permission. So I couldn't get in. When I came in the apartment and it was cold on the 1st, I called
1st
NYPD.
of January.
I called NYPD. I didn't even call about the camera. They asked me.
Okay, so I guess they're New York. The changing a lock is also a very common thing. Many tenants change locks, and depending on the lease or the law, you have to give keys to landlords. In this case, it's a roommate on roommate situation, so I don't really know how that would go down. It's not unreasonable for the tenant or the roommate to have a lock on her door, unless it's for some sort of emergency, but I could see her locking it. Keeping the window open. If it's freezing, I don't imagine she would have the window open because it'd make her uncomfortable. So I don't know why she would leave it open for the apartment to get cold, because then you're going to have to pay to heat it. So that's like a weird thing to do, but okay. That seems like it would be a very intentional thing to leave a window open.
The camera. And I told them, I need to get in the room. It's not my property. I can't get in, but the window is open. And they were there and they told me, open the door. She had forgot to lock the door, actually. So I opened the door. I went in and they said, go ahead, close the window. They watched me do that because she claims that I did it, without permission, whatever. When we came back out, I told them what's going on with this woman, that she's basically terrorizing me in my own home with my kids. And I'm telling them, look, she got the camera, and the camera was still in the bucket. So he's like, oh, okay, where's the camera? I said, she damaged it, it's in the bucket. So then that's when
Did the bucket have water?
Yes, because I was mopping before I left, cleaning for New Year's. So I took it out, and then that's where they're like, oh, okay, now this is a misdemeanor, so we can arrest her on those grounds.
So what happens? Is she there at the time? No.
She wasn't there. She didn't come back because this woman is a coward. She won't face me unless there's some...
So how did they end up arresting her? They arrested her later that day?
There was a detective looking for her for 2 weeks, and then a week. Oh, on the 12th.
What day did she get arrested?
I believe she got arrested on the 13th.
Okay, was she in your house between January 1st and the 13th?
She wasn't, because she's a coward, like I said.
Okay, so how did she get arrested on the 13th? Where? Where'd you get arrested?
It was the 14th, and I was at my doctor's appointment.
How'd they find you?
They called my phone and left a message and said for me to please call the detective so he can speak to me.
He didn't call you before the 1st?
No.
Okay, so then you speak to the detective and they say what? We have a warrant for you, or come on in and talk to me?
They said come on in and talk to us.
So you come on in and then they arrest you?
Yes.
All right, so this is the middle of January.
So I speak to the detective and I tell him what's going on. This woman is suing me through small claims court. She's suing. This is the second lawsuit I have from this lady.
Okay, the first lawsuit was
because she wanted to reoccupy my apartment. Obviously, you can't reoccupy my apartment. You and I don't get along, and her lawsuit was for me to get evicted. I am the main leaseholder.
Wait. She filed
another lawsuit because she
Tell me the 2 lawsuits she's filed.
She's filed this one for me to pay her back the rent she lived.
Okay,
and then she filed another one because she said I illegally changed my locks, which I didn't. That was last week. It was settled. Then she also said I prevent her from getting her belongings, which is a lie because I have a text message from her asking me to give her more time to find a place to stay to go pick up her stuff. I never told her she couldn't pick up her stuff. However...
Tell me what happened in that case when you say that's settled. How did it settle?
The magistrate told her that she obviously needs to find a place to stay because she cannot live with me and my children because we don't get along.
What was that lawsuit that you filed?
Oh, illegal lockout.
Okay.
Because when I went to the house, she told the babysitter in Spanish, El muchacha loca. She's saying to her in Spanish that I'm local. So she's afraid. Now the babysitter is afraid to even let me in. So she had to chain on the door. So I had to call the cops to get in because
So you filed for an illegal lockout. What was your objective? To be able to live there and get back in, or to get your stuff?
No, just to get my stuff.
So it gets settled for you to have a certain date and time to get your stuff. Has the stuff been removed?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, hallelujah. So we're done, right?
God.
Okay.
We're done. So now the only question, let's talk about it. You have
Okay.
a lawsuit here for $3,500 because
The reason why the judge wants to know about this other case is if there's any sort of a judicial estoppel or collateral estoppel. And what those things mean basically is, has something that's being at issue in this present case already been adjudicated, or in another sense, has this already been addressed in the court of law elsewhere? So if they're trying to address the same things and there's already been one resolution, the judge is bound by that resolution if it's for the exact same thing. So the case before had to deal with being, her illegal lockout, saying I need to get my stuff. So that has nothing to do with what's at issue now, which is this lady wants money for pain and suffering and wants all the rent money she ever paid back to her. So those are different things. So, but that's why the judge went into that.
you want the $700 a month that you paid while you lived there paid back to you. Under what legal theory would that happen? You lived there.
She broke the agreement that we had because
By?
I was, what I signed, what I filled out, I believe I filled out for a year for me to stay
Give
there.
me the proof of that. Then you don't have a contract for a year because you can't prove it, right?
Right.
Right. So now,
This is what
You
she said in
also-
my lap.
Earlier they said it was month to month. So unless, again, if you don't have the documentation is really important even in small claims. If you don't have a contract for a year, you don't have a contract for a year. Also, I don't know if that would be the damage she would get if the roommate, the master leaseholder breaks this like sub, tenancy or this lease agreement, this roommate agreement. I don't know if the remedy would be she would get all of the rent money she ever paid to live there. That doesn't make sense, but I don't know New York law. But according to the judge, didn't seem to make sense to her either.
you also are suing for $2,215 in hotel bills. Okay. Why are you staying at a hotel?
Because I couldn't bear to be there with all the stress that was going on. And again, I stated that I'm on medical leave.
Okay, now I understand that. I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to understand why you were saying that she has to pay that.
She knew that I was on medical leave and I have diabetes since I was 7 years old. So my sugars have to be a certain range before I get hernia surgery, which hasn't happened yet with me finding a place to stay that's peaceful.
These are hotels that you paid for while you were living there?
No.
Hotels that you paid for when?
When she told me that I had to leave, she didn't want to speak to me. She didn't want me in the house.
She told you had to leave, but you didn't leave. So the first time that you left was when the police arrested you, which wasn't until...
She left on January 1st.
Okay, so
January
show me your
31st.
hotel
That was
bills. Show
December
me your
31st.
hotel bills you're talking about.
Okay.
Red light therapy is a very specific form of light that when it penetrates.
Okay, this is in December. Why would she pay your hotel bill in December? Because you didn't feel like staying
No,
there
that's
because it was
December.
awkward?
No.
That doesn't mean that the person has to pay your hotel bills.
No, Your Honor. I was going through a lot with her before that. She kept on talking to people about me and speaking loud in the house.
I'm not asking you, now I'm telling you.
Okay.
That does not rise to the level of a legal obligation for her to eat rent, not get paid rent, and pay hotel bills, which is what you're asking for. That does not rise to that level. The fact that you guys are awkward with each other, you don't like each other, and each of you are, talking about people, whatever you're saying to me, none of it rises to the level. If you feel like you need to stay in a hotel for your peace, good for you. But that is different from someone else having a legal obligation to pay for your hotel.
Yep.
And pain and suffering, why? Because you guys don't get along? You have a counterclaim against her. According to you, you are suing for the rent because according to you didn't pay it. We're going to put a little pin in that because that's what we're going to figure out through Zelle. I'm going to need you to check your Chase account to see if it went through.
I mean, I didn't even know she had canceled those checks until I got home. Oh, I was on my way home and I get a call from ACS that Shauna had called telling them that I was a negligent mother to my children. So this is where
You
this
called
gets
ACS
This
after
woman
you
is a
got arrested?
psychotic.
Stop. You called the Child Protective Services for the state after you got arrested for destroying the camera?
I told ACS that it was times when I would watch her children, and it was a time where I visually seen her go into her room and lock the baby in her room with a stroller. She'll put it over the door so the baby couldn't get out. And she has a 2-year-old. So I'm
Yes,
like,
I do.
just sitting there, just minding my business, basically. This happened a few times from the time that I moved in. I noticed this happening around, let's say...
What else did you say to them?
So I also told them that she smokes, and the house was smelling like...
Smokes what?
Smokes weed and hookah, because she had her boyfriend there, and the whole house on 2 occasions was smoking.
So let me ask you,
like weed.
Apparently that bothered you a lot and you were worried about the children, right?
Yes.
But you only called
No, I didn't.
Child Protective Service. I haven't said my question yet. You only called them after you got arrested for criminal mischief. You never called in July, August, September, October, November, December, did you?
No.
So you did it in retaliation.
So that's a common thing that happens. I see that a lot in eviction cases. And it's a very common defense, the unit's uninhabitable, but the tenant has never claimed any sort of habitability issue. So in this case, she called Child Protective Services to retaliate. She never called them during any time that she lived there, but now that she got in trouble, she felt a great need to then retaliate and call Child Protective Services against the mom. Whether there's validity to these things, I don't know. Whether she smoked when the kids are around, that she did drugs around the kids, locked the kid in a room, I don't know. But if those things are so important to the roommate, why didn't she bring them to Child Protective Services? And does she have any evidence of this happening? Does she have any photos or videos of it? Because, again, you can say all these things happen, but if you don't have any proof of it, it doesn't really hold up.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, because it kind of looks that way.
I'm sorry.
Right? So what happened with ACS?
Well, there's an open investigation against me for my children because she said I'm negligent, which is, she knows it's a lie because I take very good care of my kids. However, yes, I do. I smoke hookah and I drink wine after work.
Stop looking at her.
And my son is 2 years old, so when I put him in the room, he knows how to open the door. When I put him down for bedtime, he'll come out like 20 times. So what I do is I put the stroller on the door so he can't get out and he goes back to sleep. I don't lock him in there, okay?
Yeah, but how do you get in then?
I take off the stroller and I get in.
No, because
it's on the outside.
Oh, the stroller's on the other side.
So
I got it.
How to open the door. She knows that. She's just being ridiculous. So anyway, the point is that I don't want this woman around me or my children.
No. That there's no question of. You have a lawsuit against her for the November all the way to January because she didn't take any of her things out. But what happened in January after you get arrested? They take you into jail, you bond out. What do you do about getting your stuff out of the apartment?
I'm still in the process of looking for a room at this time.
Okay, so it's not convenient for you to get the stuff out, so you don't. So you're suing for January rent over that. You're not supposed to get rid of the stuff. So the stuff is now picked up pursuant to that other case, right? All right. So now the pain and suffering. I presume that what you are referring to specifically is the pain and suffering of having Child Protective Services come and investigate you.
You know, I can't sleep thinking that they're going to show up at my door and take my kids or something. Even though I know my children are okay, my kids have never gone through that. These people are asking my kids questions in the middle of the night. They don't know what that is.
Are they asking your kids questions in the middle of the night?
They went to my house at 12:30 a.m. and my kids were in bed ready for
the first time.
The first time.
Now, how many times have you met with social services?
They have. Well, obviously, they're not that concerned. They told me because they could tell. They could tell if my kids were neglected.
They're not that concerned. They know that there's lawsuits involved. So they know it's retaliatory. So you're not that worried either. You haven't. It's outrageous, but you haven't. You're not truly suffering that they're going to take away your kids because you know that they know that this is about this, right?
Yeah.
Now. Your Zelle account is reflecting to you that the payment keeps getting canceled. But your Zelle account is reflecting to you that it got paid. One of those is wrong. And we've looked at both accounts and both of you are telling the truth about what you say your Zelle accounts show. So we're going to have to get to the bottom of that. And that's going to have to happen between my court staff, you guys, and Zelle somehow after this trial. So we're going to leave, I'm going to put a pin in that. And I believe that you are entitled to November rent. So if you have not received it, then you should be receiving it. But we'll see whether you actually received it. Do you have more than one account?
No.
So the payment that, according to you, keeps getting rejected is the $350 payment, correct?
Yeah.
Over and over and over, a $350 payment. So we're going to figure out how much you're owed for November. The most you can possibly be owed is a $350. Okay. You're owed $700 for December. You're owed $525 for January. So that's $1,225 in rent plus the the potential 350 of November. That is my ruling on your rent. Regarding the camera, you are entitled to an additional $38.10 because that's the cost of the camera. And then the pain and suffering and defamation of character. I find it outrageous that somebody calls Child Protective Services on you for sport, because I find that that phone call was absolutely in retaliation, but in determining how much you're entitled to, I also have to take into account that from Jump Street, it was pretty clear that nothing bad was going to happen. They have not ordered you to do anything, take
Well,
any
I
class.
I have to get drug tested, which I don't mind because, you know, I'm fine. And they're gonna
It's
monitor my
annoying.
kids.
Where do you get drug tested? You have to go somewhere?
I have to go somewhere, yeah.
Where? Have you gone or no?
No, she said she's gonna send me the details so that I can go, and then
How many times?
she didn't say how many times. She said that
All
I
right,
have to
I'm
be drug
ordering
tested.
another $800 for your troubles on having the department called on you. That is a verdict of $2,063.10. Plus, we're going to figure out what's happening with the 350. That's my judgment. Good luck, folks. And your lawsuit against her, $0. Oh, excuse me. I need to deduct from that. We're going to deduct from that the security deposit that you already have on your side of the 350. Okay.
Well, it didn't work out too well for the plaintiff in court today, Ms. Baptiste. I'm sorry, but
I don't know if I really need to go into the review of everything. I guess we can go into the review of everything.
you were suing for over $7,700, and she's got a judgment against you for over $2,000. You don't get anything in your suit. What are you thinking?
It's fine. It is what it has to be.
She is actually, granted, this whole thing has been a little chaotic because of her. She's pretty calm. I have to give it to her. I don't know if that's just her demeanor in general or if she prepared for that for this case, but she's actually very calm, which is impressive because not a lot of people are that calm. It's also very common in these cases that there's counterclaims, and in those counterclaims, sometimes the main plaintiff loses and the defendant, who then becomes the counter complainant or cross complainant, they make money. So in this case, which is pretty common when I see these people's courts, that there's some sort of offset, or the person who's getting sued initially actually ends up getting a judgment in their favor. And when it comes down to rent, it's a number thing. Did you stay there? Yes. How long did you stay there? I moved out on this date. Then until you move out of the unit, you have to pay the rent and you're responsible for the rent. So I'm not surprised by the judgment.
You know you don't feel it's fine.
No, it's fine because there's nothing I can do, sir.
Okay. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crying also
All
common.
right. You glad this is coming to an end for you?
I am, because I'm tired of having this woman in my life. I just want her gone.
It's tough to find somebody to live in your own apartment with you. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
What do you
never
do?
gonna happen again. I'm never getting anybody.
People often don't get roommates after like one roommate debacle. Sometimes also a lot of people don't go to small claims because it's just not worth the headache, because these things happen just like this, where you start out thinking you're going to get something and then you end up having to pay something. So a lot of people just like walk away from the whole thing. I don't know. She might have not asked for any of the back rent had she not been sued by the roommate. Maybe she would have, I don't know. But typically in the roommate situation, they don't understand the legal system. They don't know how to do small claims, so they don't deal with it and they just accept the loss and they move on unless they're confronted. And in a lot of these things, there's a self-help procedure. There's information about it. There's, clinics that can help you with it. So she probably learned to do a cross complaint and did a cross complaint against the roommate, and she prevailed. But a lot of the times these things just kind of, you walk away from them and you don't deal with them because, as you can see, it's an emotionally taxing experience.
Me again.
That's over?
A lesson learned.
Okay.
No.
Good luck to you. Thank you very much. All right. Harvey?
Okay.
No more for Harvey. No. Well, that's all I got on that one. Having roommates is tricky. But it's really, like, in a lot of places, like this is New York, like rent is not cheap. Rent is not cheap in a lot of places. So having a roommate is maybe the only way that you can afford to live in a place. Finding a roommate, And then like sometimes you get why landlords are really skittish. When you're a roommate and you're in the position of having to be like a pseudo landlord to find a roommate, and then having to deal with that. And like, so you're at some point in the shoes of the landlord, and especially when they're not paying, like it's the whole thing. Now, again, it's perspective. I had a friend once tell me everything in life is about perspective. So I hope that you found that mildly entertaining. And until the next one, thanks for stopping by.